Okay. And I will be posting the live as well in the event. So if you prefer to watch on live, it's always, I think, best to be in the Zoom space, but I understand folks, we're all working and vibrating at our own frequency. So I'll put the live there and then we'll put the recording on and then we'll get started. Perfect. Okay. So welcome again, everyone, to this meeting of Arcane Alchemy. Sorry, just one final thing. I'm so grateful again for this space in our kind of second year anniversary, starting, if it's not today, it's this month. So today we're actually going to be kind of moving away from Babylon a little bit, but I do want to speak as to why that's the case and why we're doing it the way that we're doing it this time around. So today I really wanted to talk about kind of putting into perspective all of the other work that we've done. And for those who are here for our trance session, we also hold a monthly trance meditation workshop, which is in the beginning of the month. This is kind of on theme with that. As I find when I look at Babylon, I think it's really important to set the stage and understand who was everyone that they were in conversation with. What was everyone saying at this time, and how were they kind of sharing their magic, their alchemy? So today we'll actually be talking about Indian alchemy, its heart and its living memory, its living experience. I'm going to be speaking as a Brown appreciator of this tradition, but if there's ever a time that you feel that I have overstepped in some way, please tell me. I do my best to be only respectful and to research what actual Indian people are saying about this. So this is just going to be, in a way, an opportunity to help set the stage for this upcoming July and August Babylonian exorcism course that we'll be doing, which is our intensive Maklu Magic that happens once a year. And so I really wanted to create the space of what do we need before we start to get into that, because we've only got one more alchemy class left before all of the alchemy courses for the rest of the summer will just be Babylon stuff. So I'm thinking next month is Egyptian alchemy, and then it'll just be Babylon. But for now, I wanted to talk a little bit about India and Indian alchemy and sorcery and how that's used still to this day, with deep respect for this tradition. As someone who, my spiritual path started with Hinduism, I was and am a very devout Shakti worshiper. My first kind of altar centered on Shakti, had her in space always. I used to basically pray and do mantra work to Shakti literally religiously as often as I could in a ritualized fashion. So I'm speaking as someone who I feel very called to do this work. And so I wanted to include it as part of this alchemical space. So in terms of setting the stage, we can start by talking about what the term and the ideas of alchemy in Sanskrit in India were. Again, for our trance workshop this past month, we did working with trance meditation, Buddhist and Hindu, understanding kind of the differences, and then going into the trance together. So now this is about kind of like, what's the active part of that, right? And so this is called Rasayana. I'll put the term in the chat now because I'm mostly going to be speaking, but if folks would like terms, there it is. And so this is, in many ways, it can be considered kind of herbal work, but it really is kind of considered alchemy and is often considered the equal term for Indian alchemy. Some might call it rejuvenation therapy. it's deeply connected to Ayurveda work, and it's got roots in both Buddhism and Hinduism, as well as Tantra, which is in its own way kind of an added layer of mysticism. And some may say esoteric and others don't, in terms of looking at kind of generalized Buddhism, Hinduism. And so Rasayana was in every way an opportunity to obtain, or an interest in obtaining, kind of the elixir of life, as well as using herbal agents, herbal and nutritional elements to feed the self, feed the spirit. And beyond that, to find ways, especially with connection to Tantra specifically, to connect to supernatural power, and to either use the elixir as the creation of your supernatural power, or to have the elixir be used as part of your supernatural power being born. It's like you can either level up and then you use the elixir for kind of a double opportunity to grow, or the elixir is what changes you. This is also considered magical in terms of transmutation. And this is where it's very similar to alchemy rasayana, because it's also about transmutation of metals into gold, kind of typical transmutational alchemy as we know it, specifically working a lot with mercury and trying to turn mercury into silver or gold. But also kind of general metallurgy, you might say, general working with metals to create something new. I've seen that there are some Indian scholars who see that a lot of the language that was used at this time, as we've seen with other alchemy and alchemists, was that there was almost an understanding that atomic structure existed, and that you could actually change an element and you could change a metal by changing something about its atoms, its soul. And that if you could change these bits and pieces, you would change that soul of the metal, the substance, into something new. And so the body of this substance would perhaps sometimes become even immortal. And immortality was another big part of understanding Rasayana and alchemy. One thing that I do want to note throughout all of this discussion is that this, when we talk about alchemy and we talk about esotericism, esoteric, sometimes they're used interchangeably, but in this case, they cannot be, because esoteric means it's hidden in secret, or it's, in some ways, these are closed practices. But in some ways also, this is about what I would say is, this idea that it's not living. But actually these practices, Tantra and Ayurveda, as some of us may already know, are a part of a living culture. And so these are not hidden in a way. These are actually understood as part of a certain life experience. And then it sort of depends person to person who thinks that the, tantric practice can create alchemy, who thinks that tantric practice actually can be immortal. These are things that, will vary and cannot be spoken as like one cohesive group, because there's no one school of thought about it. And because it's still living. So literally there's multiple people who you can speak to about this. But there is this feeling that through practice of Tantra, you can connect to heaven, and you can connect to the supernatural, and you can, in fact, become supernatural yourself, if not immortal. So that's, I think, what's very interesting and specific about this case, which is deeply connected to what we see with the alchemists who are looking for al-iksir, or the elixir, in the Muslim context, in which they are saying, well, we are here to see what happens if I find the the elixir of life, or if I find the stone of immortality, that will be my key to unlocking everything else. And so here, there's also this search for the elixir, though it has a different term. And this term is Dehavada, which is considered elixir-based alchemy. And so I'm going to put that term there too. So in terms of what this alchemy was, as we've discussed, there's this chemical component, there's a nutrition component, an herbal component, a metallurgical component working with metals, specifically trying to bring gold. And then there's also these kind of personal goals, which in turn work with Tantra, which we're going to talk about again in a moment. So there's the feeling of the immortality, the lifespan growing. There's also just general health. And then there's cognitive power, smarter, getting smarter, becoming, your memory becomes better, you become stronger, you become more virile. And then there's also this magical power aspect in which you can manipulate the world around you and gain these supernatural kind of immortality in life as part of your powers. And this really comes in through Tantric, sorcery, and ritual. And some may say, maybe sorcery isn't the right word, but I would guess I could say tantric practice. And so tantric practice is, it's in many ways a confluence of different kind of components, which include, the work of symbols, mandalas, yantras, chanting with mantras, yoga practices, so kind of mindfulness in the body, which can in turn be sensual and can be kind of, focusing on happiness-based, pleasure-based, if that's what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be, and working as well with ferocity, the fierceness of the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and honestly, appreciation of those in between as well, the non-binary ferocities. And beyond that, working with general philosophy and kind of Hindu philosophy, as well as Buddhist philosophy, depending on the tradition, in terms of looking at cosmos. So when we look at Tantra, we are in a way using these rituals as, and this is the same with alchemy as well, and this is why they are in some ways so similar, is that it's all about attempting to get closer to universe consciousness, getting closer to universe through the physical body and through the physical experience. So Tantra is very body focused, and body is in fact central to this tradition. So when we're talking about becoming present in the body, it's because we're becoming present to body as cosmos and body as God, goddess, product, or perhaps even becoming possessed by God, goddess. And I think that alchemy, in some ways, the oldest traditions, the Babylonian and the Egyptian, very much saw this as well as part of the work that needed to be done, which was the symbols, the mandalas, the yantras, the mantras, the repeated prayers that you could go into a trance with, as well as connection to the body in a way that spirit, cosmos, and God were within you. And therefore, you could in turn change the world around you. So, as we may be familiar with, and as we talked last class, a lot of tantric work, tantra, is about achieving liberation. Some might call it enlightenment. The term is moksha in Sanskrit, in attempting to achieve magical power, worldly success, but also in kind of pure joy, the joy of living, and the joy of living that becomes an ease of living, and that is eventually replaced by kind of a godliness of living. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in kind of like doing the right thing, but it's like, I am familiar with the deity that is me, and I'm familiar with my own power. And so some might even call this love magic, because and some might use it destructively as well. There's many rituals in this kind of lexicon and space. So there is the ritual of destruction, there is the ritual of love magic, of attractive magic, manifestation magic. All of these things are possible. And through many aids, basically our desire is achieved, which is at the heart of alchemy, and the heart of this alchemical course is welcoming in as much as possible the ability to connect to our ability to manifest by going deep into the old knowledge, the ways that our ancestors and all of humanity has in some way found refuge and found connection with. So I really wanted to talk about all of this in terms of one other major tool that is used in the Indian alchemical context, which is basically one-to-one with Babylonian alchemy, I would say with Jewish alchemy as well as, of course, Egyptian alchemy. And it goes on to become a major selling point and a major practitioner's point for Hermeticism, for alchemists to come, Western alchemists. And that is symbol work, symbol creation, symbol meditation, and symbol power, empowerment, I guess you might say. And so what that means in this context is looking at the power of the yantra and the mandala. All of these are symbols that have a central point, what's called a bindu. And there's also the bindu chakra, which I find as a practitioner of magic myself is like the most I find chakra sometimes to work on, which is the place where your skull meets your spinal cord. And it holds a lot of memory and it holds a lot of connection to other people, but it's center in this case. And so if there's a yantra, the yantra is my hand. The bindu is the central point. And then from there are many geometrical shapes, sacred geometry coming into play that include triangles, circles, hexagons, flower petals, lotus petals. Some may be familiar with the Sri Yantra, which is representing goddess in her form Tripura Sundari. But Sri Chakra is also a representation of Shiva. And so there's these opportunities to connect with deities, to open doors through these symbols, as well as to perhaps connect to totality of creation, totality of cosmos existence, and beyond that to symbolize multiple kinds of power points. It's a symbol of an intention or a connection, and it can even be used as an offering. And so even if you don't want to build a yantra specifically, the work of sacred geometry and symbol craft, and some might even use them for sigils, which is more of kind of a Western term, is very deeply important. And these include, again, as I said, the triangles, which are, the feminine or the masculine aspect, hexagram or hexagon, which is the union of male and female, the lotus, which is transcendence, the circle, which is manifestation, and the outer square, which is considered the container and the doorway to self, of self and to self. So I want to be mindful of time, but I have two more major points that I'd like to share before we do our meditation. The second is I wanted to share what some kind of contemporary tantric workers are doing. I have, been blessed to learn from modern tantric practitioners, and here's at least one perspective, which is the idea that Tantra is connecting to the energy of the body and watching for kind of the knots and the sensitive spots basically in our net of consciousness and existence. Tantra holds that the only constant in life is change. which is something that we spoke about very much in our last circle as well this month, which was that at the heart of this is peace with the ability to change and the realization that we can accept that change exists and come into a realization and connection with the oneness of all the change in the universe. And by doing so, if you take it that final further step as an alchemist, and if you are someone who's practicing as with Tantra, you are working to use that change for your benefit. But Tantra itself is a profound way of saying yes to life and embracing of all sensation, memory, feeling, and reaction with an understanding that both happiness and pain, love and violence, beauty and the opposite, I suppose, dreadfulness, are all in their ways states of beings. And there is actually an ability to embrace that every state of being is a part of our existence. And so we can understand that and come into an actualization of self. We can dissolve our old habits and instead we can create new ones. Because we come to understand that we don't have to reject what comes for us. Instead, it's the radical inclusion and acceptance of all things that are on this planet. And so I close by sharing some of my thoughts, which are that in all of this practice, in alchemy and in specifically Indian alchemy and its connection to Tantra and symbol work, and beyond that, rasayana and herbal connections and all of these very important elements of alchemy, we are calling in God consciousness through these practices. Alchemy is chemical, but it's also symbolic for calling in the ability to be in your power. And so you can call in these symbols, these sacred geometric patternings, as well as any ally that you need, whether it is the plants or it is the metals. Tantric ritual is in many ways a potent technology, and alchemy as well is a potent technology for achieving a kind of pacification, enrichment of self, and destruction of that which does not serve. So it's important to remember that what we're doing when we're in alchemy space is we are welcoming a body-minded new reality. And we are, in fact, creating something new. And I think that what we can learn from Indian alchemy is that this, again, I want to emphasize, is a living culture that is still practiced. Whereas in my culture, so much has been lost in the old ways of alchemy. There's been many colonial, basically destructions of old knowledge and old wisdom. The people of the book have really changed the way that we look at magic, and I understand that. And I'm not unhappy for my connection to the people of the book, both Muslim and Christian. I'm not unhappy, but I do mourn the loss of my own knowledge. And so when we're looking at how people still practice what has roots in alchemy and understandings of alchemy, we can remember that our ability to become kind of shifters and transmuters of reality is very much possible as we are body-minded, as well as always mindful of our own magical power. So thank you so much. I'm really grateful to be able to share those thoughts, those kind of fun, interesting facts, I suppose, lessons. And without further ado, I would ask that my production director please turn on the music and we'll go into our meditative meditation for the day. Someone says, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Just waiting for the music and we'll get started. Perfect. Okay, just a moment. So I'll take a moment and begin today with some breath work. I will count to 9. And when I say 9, you'll breathe in. And when I say 9, you'll breathe out. And we'll do this together to kind of arrive today in this space. So breathing in together now, 9. And 9. 9. And 9. 9. 9. One last time here, we're going to, when I direct us, we will breathe in deeply from the bottom of our feet up to the top of our head, really filling our stomach. And then on that release, we're going to really let everything out. 9. 9. Great work, everyone. Let us take a moment and let our breath return to normal. So we breathe in the divine cosmos. If we have a god, goddess we'd like to work with, we can allow them into our space. Or you can call in Shakti, divine feminine. We are coming into awareness of Atman, of soul and universal life force, with intentions of letting go of the day, letting go of the moment, becoming untied from outcomes, removed without needing to reject. We are seeing all, aware of all, letting all pass. Getting closer and closer to witness consciousness. Witness of our expression. We call in now the energies of the allies to alchemy, the plants, and specifically the metals, Mercury, thanking the lessons of the astrological stars and planets and galaxies above, appreciation and thanks, and just honoring Mercury in retrograde as it's moving, as he's moving into Gemini season, opening us up for play, for change, for growth. Calling in any other allies, any other ancestors, any ancestral mystics that help to shape us. We welcome in a deep trust, an understanding that we can trust ourselves again, and that we are empowered in our ability to transform and transmutate our reality. We ask now whether it is happening on an energetic or a visual or simply an auditory level, that vibrationally our souls are becoming contained by our own key, sigil, or yantra, 4 walls, closing around us to contain us, as we become divinely held by squares and sacred geometric figures, moving deeply in spirit and body space. Even though we are held at center in this spot, in our own yantra today, our own key of Solomon, our own sigil, feeling and perhaps seeing it being built around us, specifically for you. And here, may we be bathed in a kind of potion at the center of this yantra with our alchemical, tantric, creative energy, activating, upgrading, expanding now into God consciousness. May we be the witness to all that falls away naturally as it was meant to. As our symbol moves and grows, sometimes lightening, sometimes darkening, all working with the humble beauty of the natural order and of God consciousness. We are welcoming in the knowledge of the continuous tantras and continuums of thought. We welcome the understanding that there is a continuum of existence, that there are many beginnings and many endings. We can work with the continuum of our efforts understanding that there are methods and opportunities to change and achieve our goals within this universe. And finally, we connect to the continuum of awakening as we are constantly being woken up from our reality into something new. And through this awakening, we are all now opening to create new pathways to the new self that we hope to become. We are opening the path, opening and opening and opening, and opening to our alchemical, tantric opportunity to create something new. We say yes to the future that we want. And we all intone and understand the following alchemical mantra created purely for this class today. Together, we all are in agreement. My intent is pure. My ability to create is immortal. I am one with my spirit. My intent is pure. My ability to create is immortal. I am one with my spirit. My intent is pure. My ability to create is immortal. And I am one with my spirit. As we are welcoming in this mantra, let us witness the manifestation and creation of our desires, the change and transformation of our lives as the path opens to our desires manifested. And we are at God consciousness, changing the future with our hands, with our intentions, with Atman, with spirit. May we all manifest our future. Our intent is pure. Our ability to create is immortal. We are one with our spirit. My intent is pure. My ability to create is immortal. I am one with my spirit. My intent is pure. My ability to create is immortal. I am one with my spirit. My intent is pure. My ability to create is immortal, and I am one with my spirit. Take any final minutes now to connect with your alchemical God consciousness, to your key, your yantra, or to connect to any of the spirit allies that showed up for you today. Say any goodbyes you need to, though you will be returning. And when I count down from 10, we will return. Counting down now. When we reach 0, we will return. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Thank you to anyone who watched on the live